Romans 1:16. I've already read the first portion of it. So here's the rest of it. I'll reread 16. I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes. First for the Jew. Just so everybody knows, when they say Jew in the Bible, they're referring to those who are already God's. Now, sometimes they don't. That's not how they're always referring to it, but that's how they're referring to it here. Salvation for everyone who believes. First for those who are God's. The continuation of growth of spirit, fruit of the heart. Then for the Gentiles. In this case, it's those that don't know God. For in 17, for in the gospel, and righteousness from God is revealed. What that means is this. You can read the Bible day in, day out. You can hear it over and over. But when you grasp what He did for you on that cross, and what He's decided He wants to give to you now, that's when you're put in awe of who He is. A righteousness that is by faith, from first to last. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. You've heard it said the faith is evidence of things unseen, or something of that sort. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a scholar, so a lot of these Bible verses I've got bits and pieces of in my head. But when I read, the righteous will live by faith, I'm understanding that it doesn't mean that they're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that they're not going to fall to sin. I think that's one of the major misconceptions of faith, is that we tend to think that the person's a Christian, that person's walks with God, so they're not going to make any more mistakes anymore. Their life is going to be 100%. No. They're still going to falter. But each day they renew their vows to God to go through that day living by faith. And at the end of the day, they have to check themselves, so to speak, as the Bible tells us to do. Check to see whether you're in the faith or not. So, anyway. Romans 1:18. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness. This blatantly tells me that anyone who decides to cover truth with a lie is going to incur the wrath of God in some fashion. And I'm not sure entirely how God's going to decide to do that, but that's His place. 19. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. On Judgment Day, we're not going to be able to give excuses to God as to why we didn't do this, or why we did do that, or why we chose not to listen here, or why we went our own way here. We're not going to be able to say to Him, oh, well, this person hurt me, so I'm entitled to it, or this person did me wrong, so I'm entitled to give back to them. We're not going to be able to say that to Him at all. We're not even going to be able to attempt to open our mouths to say that to Him. For although they knew God, they neither glorified Him as God nor gave thanks to Him, But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. When we get self-absorbed in ourselves, when we start thinking about what I want, what I need, what I feel, what I desire, what I deserve to have, we get lost. Take it from somebody who knows, who's going through a divorce now. That has been, for the most part, the prevalent main portion of my marriage. I was completely absorbed in myself, and it wasn't until the divorce, till it really sank in, God got a hold of me through it, that I understood I need to quit that. I don't want my children to grow up being self-centered, being selfish. I certainly don't want them to end up the futile and the foolish-hearted that the Bible speaks about. I want them to grow up with peace in their heart, joy in their soul, happy, at peace, being able to find the serenity in the storm. 22. Romans. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. You ever heard people say, if you have faith, you're weak. If you have a relationship with Jesus, you're using him as a crutch. If you're walking with God, you aren't using your mind that you were born with. These are things that are said against Christians. But the thing is, it's entirely a huge misconceptions. Because, here's why. It takes more strength to stay and fight through something than it does to run. It's easy to tuck your tail between your legs and run the other way. You know, that's easy to do, trust me. To tuck your tail between your legs and drink, to tuck your tail between your legs and go do drugs or have relations with a bunch of women. Those are things that are easy to do. What's hard is to stay still and to fight when everything around you is crumbling down, and have faith in that fight. That's where your strength is, and that's where God's strength is made known in your life. Because people go look at you and they're going to be like, look at all this junk that's happening to this person, and how is it that they are still remaining in good spirits? Romans 23. And exchanged the glory of the mortal God for images made to look like mortal men and birds and animals and reptiles. Idols aren't just possessions. They aren't just people or animals. They're also things in your life. Cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, lust, porn, whatever you want to call it. These are things that become your God if you set anything before him. This video will be a little bit shorter, but we are going to pick up in the next video, 124.